Hey gamers, and welcome to this new episode of Van, the Very Early News Show. And this actually technically is the second episode, but maybe you'll see this for the very first time because we actually recorded and did the first episode and published that. And it was an interesting episode, to say the least. And eventually it got taken down by Capcom, actually. So that was technically the first episode, and I applaud like the lucky few of you, maybe 160 of you who watched that exclusive episode, which is now maybe will never be seen again because it lasted for like 24 hours. So yeah, we introduced ourselves and took our time, and it was like a 25 minutes episode. But yeah, what can you do? This is YouTube, and these things are unexpected, but they happen. So without further ado, we are here on this episode, and for every episode of the Van Show, we will talk about the latest happenings in the video game world, like the latest news and the most important news that are happening. And we will record this show on a semi-daily basis whenever there's something that's worth talking about. So without further ado, let's talk about the two most important stuff here. So this is me and Callum here, and we introduced ourselves before, so we will talk and we'll go straight into it now. So the first thing, Callum, is about the Golden Joystick Awards, and they are calling it like the 38th awards. Is that right? Like it has been running for 38 years or something?
I'd say it probably has been. I don't know 100% for sure, but
Yeah.
there's been publications around for that length of time. I might have been in a magazine before because that's where everything was, but I'd say it's probably been running that long.
Yeah, I have been following them for and their awards for about maybe the last 5 years or so, and they actually make much sense most of the time. And I like following them and see what they come up with as award categories and what are the winners each year and so. Let's get into it. So the winners were Nintendo Game of the Year was Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Yeah, again, that's a pretty simple one, simply because
Yeah,
during lockdown, that was what everyone was
totally
doing.
expected, right? Like they had almost nothing else for this year.
Yeah, it's not been a big year for Nintendo.
So their PC Game of the Year went to Death Stranding.
Again, that's something that kind of speaks to the platform because you can play all the games that are available on PC at the best specs, the best quality, but the
Mm,
library's not always there, and they usually
yeah,
get things.
and I think like for me also it makes sense because I don't remember like a single PC exclusive game that was like really good or that can
Yeah,
compete with something like Horizon Zero Dawn or The Stranding or every other multi-platform game that got into PC as well. So Xbox Game of the Year, and this shows really the exclusive problem with Xbox, is Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
yeah, Ori's not a bad game. It's an okay one. I'd even go as far to say it's pretty good. It's just not a world beater, and it
Yeah.
never was going to be. Xbox has been kind of the place where a lot of indie games have found a platform where they wouldn't have got one elsewhere. So
Hmm.
it's good for them, but otherwise it's pretty upsetting as an Xbox owner if you're just Xbox and nothing else because you're not getting those big exclusives. You're just missing out.
Yeah, like I think and I hope that maybe in 2 years' time, if we are still alive with this COVID, maybe this category and the Xbox Game of the Year will actually be something really, really cool with all those
Well,
studios that Microsoft has bought. And so maybe, yeah, it will be much different than what we are seeing now.
yeah, well, hopefully they don't take all the exclusives because I won't be buying an Xbox. But they bought ZeniMax, and it's worrying. They might put the follow up, the Skyrim Elder Scrolls 6 as an exclusive, and that would be for me devastating. But for Xbox fans, pretty good. So
Yeah, but I think it will be the case actually. I think unfortunately for multiplat gamers and for Bethesda fans, I think there is no other way but to go exclusive with these games. They are huge games and a huge win for Microsoft. So best indie game was Hades or Hades.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
also got the Critics' Choice as well. It was very well received. It's one of those. It's kind of like an editor's choice kind of award. It's the what Celeste was years before,
Mm,
and the likes of Hollow Knight that was just given away for free. It's one of those games that everyone loves that has a big cult following, but it's
mm.
not commercial, and it's a shame. But it's a very very good game.
Yeah, I didn't get to play it unfortunately, but yeah, I read the best of stuff about it, and I watched some gameplay of it, and it looks really cool and really maybe worthy of the best indie game.
Mm.
So game of the year was The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, well, it was really not going to be anything else. There was a couple of contenders in the form of maybe Assassin's Creed Valhalla and a couple of others that kind of lay by the wayside as well. But
Mm.
even though The Last of Us 2 had its critics and it had its problems at launch and had those leaks, it was still leaps and bounds ahead of anything that anyone else produced. It was even though it wasn't as good as the first one for a lot of people, it was still much better than anything else that
And
was
that's the
produced.
other point. Like comparing it with the first one, the second one, Part 2, got a record 6 awards
Yep.
at the Joystick Award. It got 6 awards, while the first one got only two.
Well, I think the reason for that is because they got to throw a lot more production value at the second one. I mean,
Mm.
they've picked up an award for audio, they've picked up an award for visual, and best story, which isn't surprising. They got best studio of the year. They also got PlayStation Game of the Year, and they got Ultimate Game of the Year overall.
So
It's
everything, almost everything.
basically all the big ones.
Yeah.
Everything that they could have picked up, they picked up, and that's what everyone expected, really, because it was the biggest game to come out this year.
Mm.
Possibly, if Cyberpunk could have arrived on time, it would have had a chance to kind
That's
of
the
tip
other
it.
thing. Yeah. That's the other thing that uh, we are actually missing what could be the GOTY, or what should be, in many people's opinion, it should be the GOTY for this year easily, even beating The Last of Us Part 2. And it's the problem with the release date, that they have moved the release date to December. And do you think like this is a problem now, with such a huge game being just a few days, being released just a few days after such an award show, and after also just a day after the Game Awards, so it will miss both awards? So do you think that this is a problem also that these award shows should address? Like they should cover a calendar year, a full calendar year, instead of doing it like in November or early December and miss on something like Cyberpunk?
Yeah, well, we had a discussion about this before, and I kind of put it down to the fact that they push it forward in normal circumstances, not on unlike this year and unlike um, CD Project Red, because they've
Mm.
had to put it into December for their own reasons. But on normal circumstances, there's nothing that really comes out in December or January because there's no point in doing that for a developer and a publisher because you're not going to make the Christmas money, which is where everyone's going to pick it up from. And after Christmas, no one has money to invest in games in January, so there's no point.
They are all like returning their gifts and something, or selling them on eBay, or
Exactly, that's exactly it.
trying to
So
get some
that's
of
why
that money back. Yeah.
November is the biggest one. I mean, one of the biggest year or one of the biggest days for Nintendo in all their history is the 21st of November. It's where they
Mm.
do all of their business for the entire year, basically. It's where they've released most of their consoles. A lot of big hitters have came out in that date.
Mm.
And a lot of people follow suit in that respect, just hitting that November month hard. And then December is just kind of a ghost town with a couple of indie games, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So that was also the case when we created the list for the November games. We struggled with the choices on what to put because there were too many good games to include. So it was like a 12 or 13 games list with honorable mentions and everything. And we had the absolute opposite when we were doing the December list. We didn't know what to. We had to go out of our means in order to just be able to hit 10 games, because there weren't that really good games that we can recommend to you. So yeah, that explains the November and December dilemma. So you think that these award shows should stay with the same dates and same format, and like this is a one time, a one off. This is just like an exception, and they should continue.
I think so. I think that in normal circumstances, this doesn't happen. I think CD Projekt Red have had this massive, ambitious project, and if it wasn't for the fact that they'd gave a release date, they'd have probably put it off until summer next year just to put more work
Hmm.
into it. But they've already spent technically 7 years on it now, because they announced it in 2013. So it was just a case of now or never, especially with the new console coming out. And the longer they leave it, the more that the consumer is going to be expecting of that game. They're going to need to adjust it even more. And it just becomes something that might end up slipping into development hell, which is something that
Yeah.
no developer wants. So it's better to get pushed out the door. But in normal circumstances, this doesn't happen to any other developer, and
Hmm.
everyone hits their November targets. So I don't really see any need to change it.
Yeah, these are definitely interesting times. So the second news article or news piece that we have to cover is Red Dead Online is going to be a standalone game and not free to play, a paid standalone
Mhm.
game. And the full price is going to be $20 or equivalent. But they are like Rockstar is running a sale for 75% off at $5 until February, actually.
Mhm.
So, what are your thoughts, Callum, about this decision by Rockstar?
I think it's an interesting one because GTA Online, I think they have an easier time of monetizing that because they can add so much to the game and it's easy. They can just throw a new car set in, um, new heists, new challenges. But with the Red Dead setup, it's a much more niche market whenever you're contending with the cowboy shoot 'em up genre. Like it's much harder to develop content. Like the story, the main story content, and the actual single player game, they can construct that any way they want. But multiplayer has to be kind of like a kind of mad sandbox MMORPG sort of setup, akin to that of GTA Online. And I think they'll struggle to make as much money from that.
Hmm.
Plus the fact that
And they
I don't.
struggled actually. They like really struggled with it. It has nowhere near the player base or the actual like financial returns that GTA Online is pulling off. And GTA Online is not like standalone. You only get it when you have GTA 5. You can't play it
Yeah.
alone, to my knowledge. I am not like a huge player of GTA Online. So yeah, I think like this is like Rockstar is doing this purely from a commercial standpoint in order to like okay maybe they thought like maybe okay this the full game experience, the single player portion is actually holding uh, so many potential players from actually trying the online components, or who are interested only in the multiplayer or the online components. So let's
Yeah.
separate those, and maybe we can get many more players doing this
Um,
strategy.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I just don't think it's going to be anywhere near as successful as they think it's going to be. They could prove me wrong, obviously, but I just don't think the format is as strong. They don't have that player base, so they're wanting to make that standalone so that they can bring players back in, potentially ones that have not played the game at all, or just like GTA and want something a little bit different. And it might work to an extent, but I don't think the experience is going to hold players even if they do buy the
Mm-hmm.
standalone. It's going to work on the short term. I think whenever they committed to a multiplayer for that game, it was a mistake. But they decided they wanted to do it, and they've brought it to its conclusion now, but they're trying to charge people for it. And I think that's because they know in the long run it's going to have a massive drop off. They're not going to make money in a consistent basis like GTA has for going on a decade now. And I think in about 1 year's time, I don't think there's going to be a lot of action on those servers.
Do you think like Rockstar should have gone free to play from the beginning, or from now, like from the 1st of December? Okay, it is standalone and it's free to play. Do you think that should have been the case?
If they'd done it standalone and free to play, it could have worked, but I don't think they would have done that either. I think their only two options were, we'll make it free to play for those that have already bought the game, or we'll make it standalone and make them pay to jump into it. If they made it like a free to play that you can just jump into, like the likes of Rocket League now and Fortnite now, I don't think they would have got the player base that they wanted, and I think they wouldn't have made the money that they would have wanted, because like I said, the format isn't going to be as strong as GTA. It's not going to have the same retention, so they're going to have people jumping in. Yeah, if you set up a game in that format, what they're looking for and what the developers of those games, especially, you'll see that more in mobile games, what they're looking for is white whales, which are essentially people that are spending extortionate amounts of money. One person can be spending upwards of tens of thousands of pounds on in-game microtransactions. If they get one of those, that's a massive big deal.
The 1%, yeah.
Yeah, but essentially they need to have a very strong retention and gameplay core loop to make that happen. And that game, I just don't think the multiplayer is going to have that in the same way that GTA Online has.
Yeah, like I totally agree. I think like the online component of RDR will never be as successful as GTA Online, no matter what they will do, because the problem is the core experience. The core experience is not interesting. Is not as interesting as GTA Online. So even going standalone free to play, I don't think it will help it. I don't think, as you said, maybe it's for the short term. Maybe there will be this spike that always happens when such decisions are made. But maybe, yeah, like for a month or two, and then the players will flock to the other interesting stuff, or maybe back to GTA Online. Yeah. So
I think it could have been interesting if they'd have went for the kind of standalone, we'll give it away to you, in the way that Worms Rumble or Fall Guys is going to be doing. The news came out today that Worms Rumble is going to be a PS Plus game, as we actually discussed and thought was going to happen. Basically, if they would have done it that way and they made it, you have to pay for it if you're not a PS Plus member, and then you have that month to get players on board, that could have been the one way that it could have worked on both sides, and they get their money in the long term and short term. But they haven't went for that decision, so I don't really see what way they can do it now. I think it's going to be what it is. It's going to be a short term investment for them, and I think after a year they're going to call it quits, because GTA is their cash cow and they're just going to turn their attentions to that.
Yeah, I think like they have already moved on to other projects, and they allocated like a small team to make those new items, new updates, new expansion. Also, there will be a new expansion actually coming out with this new standalone release. But I don't think like Rockstar is actually that committed for it, especially for the long term. I think they know that it will never be something huge.
No.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So that has been it, guys, for this episode of the Van Show. Tell us what you think about the winners, and whether you agree or not about the winners for the Golden Joysticks Award. And what do you think also about the exception that's happening this year with the possible Game of the Year, that Cyberpunk 2077 not being in any, and it won't be in any of these awards, not this one and not the upcoming the Game Awards. So that's like a huge omission, but it's happening for technical reasons. And the other thing, what do you think about this new decision by Rockstar going standalone with RDR Online? Do you think there's any hope for RDR Online to have an actual like big player base of players coming day in day out, or do you think that it's already doomed? Do you think they should have gone with the free to play? Sound off in the comments below. Help us reach 2,000 subscribers. Subscribe if you like this content, if you want more, and give us a like to help us with the YouTube algorithm. Maybe it will be like a bit kinder to us.
Also, if you're interested, we're also doing a giveaway at the moment on Instagram and Facebook for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. We are giving away a PC copy of that. So if you're interested, go over there, and we require you just to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord and leave a little comment in there so we can say hello. That's all we need you to do, and you'll be in with a chance of winning.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Love you all. Catch up with you in the next one. Bye-bye.